Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa. I'm a veterinarian. I'm a Delta accredited professional dog trainer, and I'm also a dog guardian. And I'm wanting to talk to you today about a very important topic, and it's how to approach a situation where we're trying to get a training program or a behaviour modification program into place, but we just have one family member that's just not on board with the rest. So that can be a very tricky situation, not just for the family, but also for the dog, because the dog's welfare and ultimately their quality of life is going to depend on our degree of success and how well we can build a rapport with that family, and in particular, that family member that isn't on board. So what do we want to look at first? Well, the most important thing to look at is, of course, having the dog's best interests at heart all the time, and that's going to guide you so very well in finding resolutions and successful outcomes for the family and the dog. So the first thing to do would be to frame your questions during the consult. And the way we want to frame our questions is to actually uncover more information about the emotional state of the family member that isn't on board. So why is this very important? In my opinion, it's extremely important because if we have that family member coming from a place of frustration or resentment, if they're feeling those feelings about their dog, then we have a really serious situation that really calls for some very prompt action on our part in getting a solution and some resolution to this situation. Now, the questions could be as simple as asking things like, well, who decided to get a dog? Was it a family decision? Who's the primary caregiver for the dog? Who feeds the dog? Who likes taking the dog for a walk? Do you like taking the dog for a walk? What do you like doing with your dog? Were there things in the past that you did with your dog that you may not do now? Is there any particular reason that you've stopped interacting with your dog? So all of these questions can be used very well to identify the emotional state of the person who's not on board. So why do we want to find out the emotional state of that person? Well, it's going to help us in understanding how difficult it's going to be to get that person to reconnect with their dog. And it's so important for that person, that family member that's not on board, to be able to reconnect with their dog in any way that's meaningful for them and in any way possible as soon as possible. And that could be even just a matter of just sitting quietly with their dog and doing a simple task like classical conditioning, just offering a treat for the dog in that environment, creating pleasant associations with that family member and with that dog, and helping to reconnect that family member with their dog. It may even mean something as simple as feeding the dog, because those sorts of activities are going to be very short, very brief, but they're still going to be useful for that family member to see a result in any way, the dog responding to them in a favourable way. Now, the other thing that is really important in understanding the emotional state of the family member that's not on board is because it could be for a completely different reason, and it could be just a lack of confidence. Now, if we consider that, let's, for example, say that family might have a very large breed dog, and no basic manners, and the dog's jumping up, the dog's very strong, very energetic, very playful, bounding all over the place. And of course, we can't blame the dog for that behaviour, and we don't want to allocate blame to the dog or any family member. But it could just be that in that situation, that family member is just not feeling confident. And of course, they're making themselves absent, or they're not on the same page because they are reluctant, because they think they may be injured or bowled over, or any other sort of outcome might happen that they're not really too keen on from their point of view. So understanding their point of view is also important. So understanding their emotional state and their point of view. So getting them to reconnect with their dog can take a number of different forms, as I mentioned. But it's also very important that whilst we're getting that person to reconnect with the dog, that we also keep that person away from potentially difficult situations with the dog. So just assigning them very small tasks that are within their ability and their confidence level, and gauging that during the consultation. So when it comes to having one family member not being on board when you are trying to get a training program or a behaviour modification program into place, it can be very, very difficult. But if we follow these rules of thumb and always have the dog's best interest at heart, it will then guide us in the most appropriate way to understanding not just the family's point of view, but also helping to reconnect all of those family members with their dog, not just in that moment, but also into the future.